Okay guys, so this is the intro for my 30 mile per hour range test, which sounds kind of strange, but anyway, the basic thinking is that you hear people say, if you want to extend your range, slow down. So if you're running low on energy, and let's say you have 10 miles to a charger and you have 6 miles range, slow down. So what does that mean to slow down? Well, don't do 80 miles an hour, but more than that, really. So it means slow down to like 40 miles an hour, something like that. When you really slow down, you'll save energy. In this car, this is a Tesla Model Y, long range 2022. What I've noticed is when I'm coming in to my neighborhood, and so I'm going 30 miles an hour. If I'm just taking it easy 30 miles per hour, I'm doing 5 miles per kilowatt or better. So it's just difficult to go that slow. And that slow is really like 30 miles per hour. But it's possible you can do it. So the point of this range test is to do 30 miles per hour, as crazy as that sounds, until I run out of energy. Okay, I'm not going to go crazy and like go until I feel that there's no more power to give or very little power to give. I'm just going to go to 0. So other people do 70 mile per hour range test, and what's cool about those is it gives a very consistent view of what you can accomplish. Equally comparing cars, more or less. So the purpose of 30 mile per hour is to see at 30 miles per hour, how far can I go? Now, since this is going to be a long test, I'm going to break it up into parts. There's not really much choice. I'm also going to avoid traveling until 9 a.m. So I want to give people a chance who are going to work to get to work, because in this neighborhood, if you're going slower and they want you to, there are people who will cut across the double yellow lines and go by you. And these are curvy roads, so that's kind of nuts. So I'm trying to avoid that as much as I can. So that's the basis for all that part, and we'll see how it goes. So the test loop. I live in Lago Vista. I live in the south side of Lago Vista. So I'm half a mile away from the intersection of American Drive and Highland Lake Boulevard. Okay, so I can get there easily. When I start running low on energy or I get close, I'll be within a mile, 2 miles at the least, at the most, 2 miles at most from my house. I do charge at home, so that won't be a problem. I just have to get to the house. So the loop is Highland Lake on the south side, Boggy Ford Road on the north side, with Allegiance making the connection between the two on the east side. On the west side, the two roads come together. There will be 3 hard stop signs where I need to stop. The turn on Allegiance will be a little bit sharp, but I can maintain 30 miles per hour almost through that. That won't be a problem. Okay, with that, let's get going. Okay, so now you join me on my loop. I'm on Highland Lake, coming up to Boggy Ford. First stop. Okay, so I'll have some utility construction up here. And of course, here comes a car, so the guy has to step in the road. Maybe I'll be going around these guys in the other lane every time I come through. This will keep going for a ways until I get back around to American, which is actually only like, what, half a mile? And obviously it's trash day down in my neighborhood, so everybody has their trash cans out. Not a surprise there. Our trash day is Mondays, so that's why. And it's not recycle day, so that's every other Monday. Okay, here now we're gonna go past American on the north side. What I'm hoping is it's 8:05, so I'm kind of hoping that anybody who has to go to work has already left. Austin's like 45 minutes away or so, depending on how where you're going, right? Anyway, this section here is going to be a 45 mile per hour speed limit, but I'm going to be doing 30. Yeah, of course my hand is jiggling around because it's on top of the steering wheel, but whatever. This is just to give you an idea of what the layout is. You will notice that I'm rolling a little bit, which is not ideal, but it all works out. It's not horrendously hard to go up any of this. It'll all balance out. I'll finish where I started, right? So that part of it obviously will be balanced out. There's Mr. Sun. Yeah, it is hard to not go up to 40 when you're on this section, but there's just one car behind me. So you'll notice the double yellow lines. Occasionally people will get impatient and they will cross the double yellows and go. Even though this is a somewhat winding road, it's not horrible, but you don't really have the vision to pass a car in this area. But people do it anyway, and that's life. I'm sure it's that way every place you go, at least to some extent. Okay, so now we'll be coming up on Legions. It's just out of sight down there at the corner, or you just see that truck parked turning there. Oh, the Jeep gave up. That's interesting. All right, so left turn onto Legions. Have to slow down, but don't have to stop. Take this corner. Okay, so now coming up on Allegiance. I'm on Allegiance, coming up on Highland Lake. So make a right turn on Highland Lake. So this is the second of 3 stops I've made so far. And this is a 30 mile per hour test. This is all neighborhood. So it's I guess it's kind of expected that I'll have some stops. I guess you could find a track somewhere and go around and loops in the track. And that would probably be more ideal if I was really serious about range testing. What I'm interested in is just establishing some idea so that you have an idea what will happen when you drive your car. I mean, most people, like I said, they'll do 70 mile per hour range tests, which makes it fair and equal for all vehicles tested, because they're capable of running highway speeds. Of course, my Tesla is also capable of doing the same stuff. But I live in a neighborhood. A lot of my driving is either neighborhood or going to see a friend in a few towns over, something like that. Yeah. Of course, she couldn't see me coming over the hill. At least I assumed she couldn't. It's all normal stuff. It's a neighborhood. And I got a school bus. Oh, well, they just finished his reds. 371. That's interesting. I thought 372 came through here. Okay, I don't know. I mean, I used to, but I don't know this year. I don't work for him anymore. I decided to be fully retired, which is kind of cool. Okay, so here's our big hill. There are others, but this is the big one. So on the following loops, I will be using cruise control to limit the speed, which will make it more fair. But for now, I'm just recording what the route is, and we'll go from there. Valkyries. Oh, she joined the Valkyries. Okay. Oh, that used to be a school bus stop that I did last year, so I know the girl lives there. And I think she's a junior this year. All right, there we go. And this section here, in case you want to know, is if I'm doing 0 to 60 testing, I do it here. Don't really have to do a whole lot of that, but I have done it once in this car. Oh my goodness. And this is a slow Tesla, you know, compared to the other guys. Okay, so this is my third stop, American Drive at Highland Lake. And my house actually is to the right, sort of anyway, on American. Alright, with all that done, I'll get back to y'all later when I get down to about 25%. Okay, so a lot of you have heard of autopilot. So if you see my screen right now, you see the D for drive. I'm doing 25 miles an hour. So just next to that D ought to be a grayed out steering wheel looking symbol. And that's not visible right now. So the basic problem is there's no lines on the road. If there's no lines on the road, you can't start autopilot. In fact, you can't start traffic aware cruise control either. So when people tell you, well, I turned on autopilot, that's why I wrecked, and you look at the road like there's no lines on it, yeah. No, they didn't have autopilot on. They couldn't have turned it on. Good. Right, so that's just a little awareness message. Okay, so now you see that I have lines on the road. If you look down my dashboard, you see the grayed out steering wheel. Well, he disappeared because I went through an intersection, and there he's back. And so it's still grayed out because it's not on autopilot. But you'll see over to the right, there's a 31 with a max under it. I'm actually in a 40 zone. My car reads 1 mile more than the actual speed, so I'm at 31. Anyway, 31 max indicates that I have TAC on, or traffic aware cruise control. Okay, so if you saw my screenshot, you may have noticed that I have TAC on, traffic aware cruise control, but I don't have autopilot on. So if you saw the demonstration of the course I'm following, you'll see that some of the left and right curves are a little bit sharp. So in cruise control, with me driving, I'm able to make those corners. Yes, I cross the lines, but I can make those corners. Autopilot is not able to handle those corners. So to me, autopilot's a little bit like a teenager who sort of understands a car and has a passing idea of how to handle things, but doesn't really know how to plan curves. Because what it does is it turns kind of late. So on those sharp corners, it'll turn kind of late, and when it does so, it turns pretty sharp. So I have a hard time trusting it in that mode. On the highway, yeah, I don't have that problem. But on these streets, I can't really do cruise control. I mean, autopilot. Okay, so while I was driving along, there was a fawn that came out in the road. It was kind of standing right in the middle of the lane. So I'm telling you because it's a little bit interesting. So obviously I came off cruise control. I was going to have to brake. And I did brake. So when I was about 6 feet away, it's still in the middle of the road. And of course it's running up the road instead of off. But it looked like a pedestrian from about 6 feet away. So that sounds like autopilot would have stopped the car if autopilot had seen that. And I assume the cruise control probably would as well. Okay, here we are. We've used 10%. I've covered. Well, here I'll just show you. I guess I've gone 38 miles. 8 kilowatts of energy. My average energy usage is 203 watt hours per mile, which is just under 4 miles per kilowatt. So anyway, and it's been an hour 20. So yeah, this is gonna be a long day. Anyway, that's where we're at. Okay, so by default, Tesla will default to 25 miles an hour on surface streets or city streets, however you want to call it. But when you come up on this 30 miles per hour, then cruise control recognizes, if I get between the lines, I guess, cruise control will recognize that speed limit is 30. So that's just one of those things. So by Texas law, I believe it is, a city street is 25 miles an hour. Okay, so welcome to the 75% check-in on OPA 30 mile per hour test, range test. I have 75%. Estimated range left to go is 239 miles. Trips. I've covered 92 miles since the start of this. Used 18 kilowatts. Average energy is 193 watt hours per mile. Okay, here we are with OPA array. I missed the exact 25%, so we're at 24%. Energy graph. So we got 211 watt hours per mile. Projection range of 87 trips. So overall, we've covered 274 miles, 55 kilowatt hours, with an average energy of 202 watt hours per mile. Okay, here we go with TAC. See, I'm following this fan. This van is going about 2 miles under speed limit, as you can see here. And so anyway, TAC will slow me down so I can stay behind the vehicle in front of me safely. Okay, you gotta love this message. You are almost too far from known charging locations. Let's see, I have 5 miles. I can't make it to Cedar Park. I wonder what chargers it thinks I can get to. Oh, of course, yeah, I can get to BK. Is that right? Anyway, it's just a funny message. Okay, I just pulled into home, and here it is. Battery too low message. Charge immediately to ensure vehicle will start, remain responsive, and avoid potential battery repair. Okay, so I am at 1 mile, so I gained a little bit coming down the hill to my house. If you switch over, okay, so I'm at 0%. I was at 0 miles, but coming to my house was slightly downhill. So now I have 1 mile. For trips, my challenge resulted in 354 miles, 71 kilowatt hours consumed, and an average energy usage of 200 watt hours per mile. Interestingly, the current trip, so I split this into 4 sections. The current trip ended up with a 197. Before that, I was up in the 240s, and I think that's because the heat of the day had air conditioning going. Anyway, I'll go add up some numbers and then we'll go from there. Thank you. Okay, so wrapping up my 30 mile per hour range test in my Model Y long range, what I got was 354 miles of range. Okay, and in the previous portion of the video you saw, I pulled in with 0% and basically 1 mile of range left. Of course, that 1 mile range was bought back coming downhill, coming into the house. Okay, so 354 miles range. Somehow that just equated to 71 kilowatts used. I'm not sure why I got that, but it is. And so I'm averaging 200 watt hours per mile. So for this test, I basically broke it down into 4 sessions, 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon. On the second day, I went a little bit further because I was almost out. Now, it's almost impossible to imagine. I didn't write down how many hours it took, but it's almost impossible to imagine how much time it was sitting in the car. So I took a lunch break. At the end of the first day, I came home, parked the car, and rested, and started over again on the second day. So that part, all good. I mean, is it scientific? Not really. So I didn't mention it on the course, but it's somewhat rolling. I mean, people in places where they have mountains would get mad if I call them mountains, so they're not mountains. And people with hills would say they're not really hills, they're just rises. But, okay, so anyway, I'm going up and down some hills. So there's one hill I was going up, and you could see it's killing the range. But once I get past it, then I'm just cruising around, no big deal. And then I'm coming back around, and I'm going down a hill and up a hill, and that part kind of all balanced out. But so there's some hills. The other thing I noticed was in the afternoon, I was kind of wondering what was going on. So this is in the summer. So in the afternoon, of course, the air conditioning's working more. So at times my watt hours per mile went up a bit. But in the end, I still ended up with 200, so that was all good. Okay, I think that's it that I want to say. The key thing is, so the Tesla is rated for 330. I have never seen 330 out of this car. Now, have I ever done a full 70 mile per hour range test? No, I have not. And I usually charge, at the time I did the test, I charged to 90. I'm now charging to 80. I did charge at home, so the utility room where the dryer is right next to the garage. So what I do is I just pull back the car into the garage and use the mobile EVSE to plug into the dryer port and charge up the car. What is that? That was 6 kilowatts, I think it is. So it's a reasonable amount of energy. It would charge the car up in 5 hours, 6 hours, something like that. So that's how I did that charging. Okay, so I think that's it. I hope you find it curious, interesting. I don't wish this kind of test on anybody. I mean, it's so long and tedious. I'm sure somebody has a clever loop somewhere where they could go 30 miles per hour in a loop without any stop signs, without any traffic, without any hills. And that would be much more preferable. I didn't have that luxury. But the main key point is to find out, give an idea of what to expect. And so based upon what Tesla says this car can do, or the EPA, the fact that I got another 25 miles indicates, yeah, if you slow down, you can save some energy. I hope you find this interesting. See you later.